I'm Tammy McCarthy.
And I'm Becky Fleischer.
We're two soul sisters on the front lines of growth and transformation, getting real about it all.
You know, sometimes we're totally in our woo-woo groove, walking on light.
Yep. And other times, we lose our footing and end up tripping over those very same rays of sunshine. That's woo-woo in the real world. On this show, we're giving you an inside look at all the healing practices and mindfulness that we use and how we integrate them into our lives.
Yep, we're talking to interesting people who can help us along the way as we look at some of the woo and wild things that make us go,
We hope that you'll join us, living woo-woo in the real world.
Welcome back to Woo Woo in the Real World. Tammy and I are sitting here on Zoom for our wrap-up podcast episode here for our first season of our show.
I know. It's just wild to me.
It's crazy that we've already done
so fast, actually.
So fast, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we were just kind of debriefing a little bit before we hit record here, but that this is actually our 11th episode.
Yeah.
And through our podcasting, how we stream it on all the different services, through our YouTube channel, we've got the videos, through our Instagram, all these things, like we are really humbled and really touched. We're reaching thousands of people with our message. Just our numbers are really incredible. I don't think we could have predicted it.
No, I mean, that's the funny thing, right? You can't predict any of this stuff, but I think what has been important for us and what we're trying to do in terms of keeping each other real is that we are wanting to keep it real with everybody else, you know. We're not pretending to be anything. We're not, in this gathering that we did last night in real life, in the real world, which was and we can talk about that. But I think I mentioned at some point, we're not teachers here, you and I. We're students, just like everybody else, in terms of, students of life, students of being on this journey, on this path, and, just sharing not only with each other, you and I, but also with hopefully the world and people in our community and beyond about how, we're experiencing things and what we're doing and how we're going about making shifts and sharing that when you do this, it brings up a lot of uncomfortable stuff.
It does.
And that's okay.
Yeah, that's part of the journey. I heard somebody say once I was in a community and someone just was saying, I'm glad to be a fellow pilgrim with all of you. And I thought, wow, that is a really interesting use of that word pilgrim. I love it because, pilgrims really were going into an unknown. They had no idea what they were stepping into. They didn't know what the land looked like or if they were going to fall off of the edge of the earth,
Right.
And a lot of times that's how it feels like when you're on this kind of what I call a further journey, when you're really stepping into your heart power and your soul wisdom, and you're really kind of shedding some ego-based ways of operating through the world. There's so much unknown. You posted that today on Instagram. In fact, here's me over here trying to get comfortable with the unknown.
Right.
I do feel like we are pilgriming there together. And I love that so much. And the community that is around this show and around especially all of the efforts that you have been really cultivating with Kahlo over the last, 5+ years. You really have developed that community of people. It's incredible.
Yeah. That's what my heart's all about, is just cultivating that. And there's no handbook. There's no, right. But one thing that I have learned, and even since we embarked on launching this podcast in December, it's been 4 months of, in many ways, what do I do next? What do I do next? And learning that lesson of, you actually will serve yourself better if you try not to push or control an answer to that question.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But except for I like to control the answer to that question.
Control freak over here.
But you are 1000% right. Yeah. It's like we create our own suffering by trying to dictate the how and the when and the what's it going to be and on what timeline. And I need to know by X. And it's so difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we do that to ourselves.
We do that to ourselves, but also we don't know any better, really.
Mhm,
I mean, from the
mhm.
time we're born, we're pushed into all kinds of directions, for better
Mhm.
or for worse. That is the human experience, right?
Yeah.
And Dan reminded me yesterday, that's why I'm just pausing, and he sent me a text, and you probably listened to this guy's podcast. I mean, I'm trying to be regular, but I'm always catching up on other people's podcasts, and there are
Mhm.
definitely a few of my faves in my library. But Corey, who has the I know,
Love.
but his episode was all about it, and just practicing human.
Yeah. Corey Mascara for all those who are listening,
Yes,
practicing
yeah.
human.
Yes,
Yes, we
and,
do. We post up his things from Instagram. I repost his stuff a lot because I think he's a former monk. He's young. He's like 28 years
so
old.
young. He is so young.
But the wisdom, I mean, the wisdom he has uncovered through his practice and through his years of being a monk and
Yeah.
his practicing human, that's the name of his podcast. It's really insightful.
Yeah.
Really.
So this particular episode that Dan sent me a link to that I had not listened to yet, it just hit me to my core, because in any moment throughout my life, in any kind of transition, I always had to figure out and know exactly what I was going to do next. The idea of just having space and time to not have those answers was something that would never even cross my mind. It's like, you got to know, you got to have a plan.
Yep. Yeah.
And so, and a lot of times, just on my current journey and where I'm at, just really, again, working from alignment and allowing myself to really hone in on exactly what alignment feels like energetically in my body.
Oh, yeah.
Is what, from December when we started the podcast until now, I would say is a big aha for me.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
Yeah. I love that. I think that's super important. Something I'm working on. It's hard to feel it in your body. But that is the place where it's true.
Right.
That's
or the sign is all there and you're feeling it, but you're ignoring it, or you're discrediting it because your ego wants to go to all the comfort places.
Oh,
right?
yeah, of course.
All the patterns, all the everything. And in this episode with Corey, he was saying, like, you are, and again, you describe this so beautifully as the edge of becoming, right? But it's that edge where the pilgrim or the unknown, and it's so true. It's like you're on that edge and you could continue to repeat the things and the patterns, right?
Yep.
That for the moment will feel good and will feel like you're doing the right thing, but will ultimately leave you unfulfilled. And you're going to hit that wall again. If you're making decisions because of programming or because of conditioning or because your ego is screaming loudly, right? But if you just stay in that uncomfortable place and you just, like we said last night, like quiet that ego voice and allow your soul and your heart to speak to you, right?
Yeah.
That's where the magic is.
It really is. And honestly, to get there, I think it's hard to go there because it feels like the unknown feels dark and scary. You don't know what's in there. And we don't like going in dark places without a light with us. And you don't get to take a light with you. So like, that's the hard part of it all. You have to kind of bump around, and it's that feeling of really feeling everything. To me, that's the hardest part of it's the constant weaving in and out of knowing and unknowing and knowing and unknowing, because they're so related. It's like you go through this period of unknowing, and then I feel like you get clarity, right? You get clarity in the darkness. And then you all of a sudden kind of, oh, now I know where I'm supposed to go. And then it's like you have a little stretch where you know what you're doing and you know where you're going. And then all of a sudden you're back in the darkness again. And so it's this constant weave in and out, in and out, in and out. And, one of the things I'm actually so proud of us with this podcast, like we started it and we really started it imperfect.
Yes.
Right? Like we didn't know exactly where it was going. We just knew we wanted to do it and we wanted to start. And I think for me, that's a big growth edge that I have been working to get over for many years now, of not over preparing and not over analyzing and not overthinking it and just taking one step towards it. It doesn't mean you have to eat the whole thing, the whole apple all at once, but like just take a bite, right? Just take a bite and see what that feels like. And so I'm super happy. For me, this podcast has been, the last 4 months has really been an exercise in exploration of letting go of the way that I did my podcast before, because I was a solo podcaster. I had like no need for being in person. I wasn't trying to do any of that. I just had it all super contained and had a different way of doing it. But then when we had this idea of like, let's be with people, let's be real time, let's try to record it live, let's do all these things. I love it, but it was also a growth edge for me because I also was like, I don't know how we do that. Like, I don't know how we do that, make it sound good and look good. And I think that's an area where we have identified as something that we're going to invest in and get better at for season 2 and beyond. But I'm proud of us for starting. Honestly, I'm proud of us for starting, for putting our stamp on it and putting ourselves out here and saying, hey, we're going to have the conversations. Some of the audio might not sound as clear as others, but you'll still be able to hear it.
You may hear a truck going by, or you may hear people walking into the space, but hey.
Right. Tammy may have to go off camera and tend to a customer. I love that part of the show of like, it's so super real. And I really do appreciate that, because personal growth edge of not over preparing. I mean, a dirty little secret with my old podcast, you guys, I over prepared for every show. I would stress myself out. I would have like pages of notes and pages of questions and all the things from people's books. And if I was doing a solo show, I would all but have it scripted out, like almost word for word. Mm-hmm. I mean, can you imagine? That's for crazy making. I mean, I look at this now and I'm like, how did I do that? Like you and I get on here and we kind of organically go where it goes. We know generally like who we're talking to, what we're talking about, that the conversations are more organic. And I have loved that for me. Yeah. That has been that's been such a huge flourishing thing for me. So I really appreciate that in our show and over the last 4 months. And it's helped me. I feel like it's helped me trust that in other parts of my life too.
That's amazing.
Yeah, which I think is really good. It's all really good. Yeah.
I love that. I know. It's so funny. The over preparation thing. I'm like that in a lot of ways too. But I think it's been such a busy time for us. I mean, you're working on your album. You've got,
oh my gosh,
right? This isn't the only thing that we do, but we wanted to make time to do this. And it's been so fun. But for me, I mean, I just, there's no way I could have, did notes and research. And I mean, there's a lot of that stuff that we do anyway, organically, because we're involved in and our own practices in our lives. Right. But, last night, because it was an in-person experience for the solar eclipse new moon in Aries, for our sound bath, we had almost 30 people there. And I did have a moment a couple of weeks before the event where I sat down and I said, I want to just do a brain dump of everything that I'm thinking and what I want to say and what I want people to experience from the moment they walk in the door until the moment they leave. And that was a good exercise, right? And when we started yesterday, and I had my phone there, and of course I had Google Drive and I had all of my notes that I just wanted to have open. And
just in case.
my little safety net,
Mhm.
but then
Mhm.
seeing everybody and then just being there with an open heart and knowing that all of that preparation led to that moment, to that experience. I was like, I'm just going to let this fly and do what feels right and do what feels the moment is calling for, because that's what we've been doing in our podcast.
Yeah. And you know what? And it was perfect. It was perfect. Like what you said last night and what you delivered and how you did that last
I
night.
have no memory of.
Well, but it was exactly right. I mean, because it was exactly right for being in the moment and
Yes.
in the room. And I think that's so much of what people in the spiritual awakening space talk about. It's about being present, being
Right.
in the moment. And
Right.
honestly, if you're working off note cards, it's sometimes you're not in the moment, right? Because you're following what I had
Exactly.
prepared. So I'm in the past. This is what I had prepared. This is what I've got. My agenda's ready. And that's the trap I have fallen into so
Mhm.
much. And in fact, last night we did the musical meditation, and I
Yeah.
really made a
So
point.
beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
So beautiful.
Thank you. So even though it was a song that I wrote, right? Sometimes lyrics like to fly away from me. They don't always like to stay right in my head. And
Mhm.
so usually I will have, my iPad or something there. Just same thing like with your
Yeah.
Google Drive. Just in case, right? I flub. But I said to myself as well, I was like, I am not going to take lyrics. I'm not going to have anything in front of me between me and the audience. I want us all to be together. And I don't want to have this thing in between us.
Mhm.
It feels like a barrier in some way, and almost a little, because it's like a little protective shield, right? Just in case.
Yeah.
And so I thought, no, I'm just going to do this, and it's my song. So if I mess it up, I'll figure out how to fix it. Like,
And nobody's going to know because they don't know the song.
correct. Right. But so I had that exact same
It was
feeling.
beautiful. It was so
Yeah.
beautiful. So
Thanks.
beautiful. I can't wait to share that video with everybody
I
who
know.
wasn't
Yeah.
there, because I still think, even if you're listening right now to this podcast and you're wondering what we're talking about, if you go online, at some point it will be online within the next probably 24 to 48 hours.
Mhm.
Do check out the reel that we share. We'll probably also put it on Woo Woo in the Real World's Instagram page. But yeah, I mean, do check it out, because it was such a beautiful evening of community.
Yeah.
And if you listen to our last podcast with Holly, our guest that we interviewed, who's a sound healer, she played a sound concert for us. And, I have to say, that's the first time that I've heard someone describe it as exfoliating your energy.
And really the sound, it went with that. I loved it. I thought that was
Really went
so
with that,
great.
And as Holly explained it, it was a cleansing sound bath that she started with. And the journey was then, after we, cleansed our energy and released what we no longer want in our lives, then we kind of relaxed and restored into our intentions and what we wanted to call into our lives. Because right now, I mean, I think everyone is talking about, the energy right now in terms of the solar eclipse season, Aries, and we've had 2 new moons already, right? In April, is a big deal, because it's a lot of ending all the crap and all the old stuff and welcoming in all the new stuff. It's a great time for new beginnings.
Oh, yeah.
For me, that's been really comforting, because if you are navigating the unknown and you're in this recalibration, as Corey calls it, knowing that the energy is already supporting that is a very comforting thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it allows me personally to trust everything that is happening, probably more so than I would, right?
Yeah, I agree. People have asked me that before about, what do you get out of, an astrology reading, or,
Right.
A reading with the white buffalo woman, or,
Right.
any of these kinds of, they're like, well, what exactly do you get? Because it's not like they're not telling you your future. They're not telling you what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And the best way to describe it is really, it's almost like a weather forecast, right? So it's almost like, well, if it's going to be hot and sunny, then I know that I can wear my shorts, and I'm going to want to bring a t-shirt. I'm not going to want to put on jeans and a sweater because that's going to be uncomfortable, right? So energetically, these people kind of give you a forecast of, here's what the energy is going to support. So I liked how you said that, here's what the energy is going to support. And honestly, you don't always, well, I would say for me, I have never known like what that actually looks like until I'm in it. So, I think it was last October or November, I try to meet with my astrologer like once every year and a half. And she told me this spring, she was like, the spring, it's almost like a timer goes off, and like all these things that you've been struggling with, or all these things you've been contemplating, and the timer's gone off and you've decided, like, you'll just feel this new energy come in, and it's almost like you'll just effortlessly go that way. And I didn't know exactly. I had some ideas of what she was talking about. But one thing that happened to me just recently in the last month, actually in the last 2 weeks, I think, I have been thinking about going back to my maiden name. I mean, I've been thinking about that for a while. And, it's something I've just toyed with. I've kind of researched like, oh, do I have to change it legally? And that's going to be a drag and all this, that, and the other. And it was the weirdest thing. One morning it was a Monday morning, and I woke up and I just said, yeah, I'm changing it. And it just, it didn't feel forced. It didn't feel contrived. I was just like, yeah, I'm going back. Like I'm going back to Becky Davis. Like that's what I'm going to do, at least socially and professionally. And it just felt like the most organic, supported, natural thing. It didn't feel like no resistance attached to it. I told my kids, they were great. I told my ex-husband, he was supportive. Like I told all my friends, I told you, especially people that I'm like, we're going to have to rebrand the podcast. So it was interesting. So I think, that idea of the energy being there to support you is valid.
Right. I mean, look, it's about ease and flow, right? Yeah. And you were flowing, and that felt right.
Yeah. Right. It really did. And yeah, so it's also interesting. And I think all these things that we do, like the sound baths and the Reiki healing and the meeting with you, our very first guest, it's all just so fascinating to me, because sometimes you have amazing experiences in that moment with that person or in a sound bath. And then sometimes it's later, and it comes later, and you're like,
exactly.
Oh, okay. That's why that came up during that sound bath or that reading or that experience with that healer. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden it gives you the confidence, like you just said. It really gives you the confidence to lean into it and say, okay, I might not know where this goes, but it feels like I'm supposed to lean into it. So I'm going to.
Yeah. And also just, constantly detoxing your own energetic field is huge.
Get rid of the pom-poms.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I love that analogy from our last episode for people who weren't listening. You got to go back and listen to what the pom-poms are about, because I thought that was a really good visual.
Yeah. I mean, detox that energy, baby.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, we are getting ready for a new season, right? Well, so new season in life and a new season in our podcast.
Totally. Yes. Yeah. I think, so it's been 4 months. We've done 11 episodes, as you said. So, so every other week we have been posting episodes, and it's been amazing. And we're going to go on a little hiatus just briefly to flesh out our themes, right? Go into a kind of production phase of lining up some new guests that we want to talk to, and into the show, and some real life experiences too that we're going to be planning and bringing and debuting to our audience. So yeah, we've got a lot of good stuff that we're working on that's organically growing from saying, yes, we want to do this and do it together, which has been so fun.
So fun.
Yeah. So do you have any wrap up thoughts that you want to share?
I guess my big wrap up thoughts are just, as you had said earlier in the episode, there's no handbook for this, which is so true, right? Yeah. There is you couldn't write a book and give somebody the step-by-step on how this works. But for some reason, when you said that, it popped into my mind but we can hold hands, right?
Aw,
So there's no handbook, right? But there's something about holding hands through it
mhm.
that really brings a lot of comfort.
And more fun.
And more fun. Yeah, like a ton more fun. And so
Mhm.
there's something about that I guess I'm just grateful for everyone who is listening and who is interested and who's willing to like reach your hand out and say, I'm
Yeah,
curious, like, can I go with you or can I see with you? Or, we say that to people, we say that to each other all the time, do you want to go explore this thing with me? Do you want to talk about this thing with me? And it's so much easier when you have a hand to hold because there is no handbook.
totally.
So I thank you for holding hands with me, and I thank our listeners really for coming along with us and holding
Yes.
hands.
Totally. I share that. Thank you, Becky, and thank you to anybody who has listened to even one episode.
Yeah,
And if it made a difference in your life, that's all we care about, really. Just doing it one episode by one episode.
that's right. Until next season, when we are going to have the season all themed out and our tech all fixed up.
Oh, gosh. Oh, please don't jinx us with the tech. I mean, we should share that story. So the tech stuff,
Oh my
the
God.
last episode. So we've had tech issues just in terms of like, it's tech. And so, did this work? Did that work? Or, the audio with noise in the background. But then there's next level woo-woo tech stuff, right?
Which always happens. It's crazy.
And 2 times it was epically crazy with both of our sound people. So Yush and with Holly, all of the equipment completely got like super hot to the touch hot. Things stopped working. Right? We had to like cool everything down, which is just, interesting. It's just like but then last night, so our setup, we were at this place in our little neck of the woods where we live, and it was a community type center. And, the setup was pretty extensive in terms of Holly had her setup with her multiple sound bowls and instruments. And then we had all of the mats that we help Holly place down and blankets and pillows. I mean, we really go full out, to make people comfy and cozy first and foremost. And then there was the creating of the altar, right? And really transforming that space into a healing space and cleansing the energy and placing the flowers and lighting the candles. And then our places, right? Where you and I were going to be kind of at either side of this beautiful kind of altar that was created for people. And all of that was designed really to help support people in the space to be present and to go super deep in the experience. And then you wrote this beautiful meditation, and we started out with this whole intentional design. And so for your song and for us leading the group, we had a tech component to it, right? So you had to set up your amazing Bose speaker and your soundboard that you plugged your guitar into and our mics into, and we had beautiful music picked out.
Yes, and we're playing it, and it's
People
wonderful.
were arriving. The sound was playing. And 15 minutes before arrival, it's like places, and the music is playing, and you're making sure everything's in tune with your guitar, and you're strumming you're giving us a few bars of your amazing song and other songs, and the tech is working
beautifully.
And then 5 minutes before people or so are supposed to arrive, the tech goes dead.
Just completely bonkers, but it wasn't dead. That's the crazy thing.
But it wasn't dead, right?
Right? Because there was power. Everything.
Our tech was having a near-death experience.
Yes, it was.
And we're plugging everything. And we're like,
totally weird.
There's great sound in this space. We don't need it. I mean, it would enhance it. It would be amazing, but we don't need it, but we really want it.
Yeah.
And talk about trust, right? And then so by the time the first person entered the space, all of a sudden the tech started working.
Tech started working again. Bizarre. I mean, completely bizarre. Yeah.
That was bizarre.
Really, there's really no explanation. Like I was trying to, you were like, is it the circuit? I'm like, it is not the circuit. The board everything has power.
Everything has power.
Everything works exactly the way that it was before, except for it's just not working. Like, I don't know how to describe this. It's weird. Yeah. Interesting. I know we do have fun. Like,
right. And so, it's like whenever you go to these, spiritual, gatherings like we have where there is either a medium or a psychic or a shaman, for example, one of the things they always say that the other side excuse me, is communicating through flickering of the lights and playing with electricity. And so it can be unexplainable as to why these electrical occurrences are happening, and that's what happened, and I'm like, thank you, Spirit, for letting us know that you're here with us tonight.
Yeah. And for letting us use the PA. We do appreciate you bringing it back.
Thank you for then cooperating.
I honestly, I feel like it was a test. Like I was talking to Ryan afterward and I go, I'm actually like, I felt very good about how we moved through that because
very good.
We didn't freak out. We were just kind of like, okay, this is weird that this is happening. And it's happening literally 5 minutes right before this is taking us off our course, right? This is not part of the plan.
Our planners that we are, and project management.
That's right. But we were just like
to the hilt.
Exactly. But we were like, I mean, it'll come back or it won't come back. And I think
trust.
That's right. Don't they say that's a sign of like your spiritual growth is when you have a different reaction than what you would have had? I would have had a completely different reaction a few years ago. That would have totally, that would have taken me completely off my game. I definitely would have forgotten all my lyrics then for sure. Like the old Becky would not have been able to process that and performing a song and knowing the lyrics by heart at the same time. So yeah, very interesting. Super interesting.
Super interesting.
I know. Well, we're going to keep gathering up all of our wooiest stories and all of our woo experiences for season 2, which will be coming at everybody. And we're just really excited to keep going with this. And like you said, all the organic things that are coming. One favor I would love to ask everyone if they haven't had a chance yet is that one of the things that helps get the message out about podcasts is when they have reviews. So if you are on Apple Podcasts, it's really, I don't think Spotify has reviews, but Apple Podcast, you can leave a review, rate and review. It's super easy to do from the app. It takes just like a minute. You can just give it a 5 stars and a quick little blurb about why you love it. But that really does help the algorithm pop the podcast up. So when it sees people commenting,
pop our podcast up.
Yeah, pop it up because it's really, it's about, just more people having access to it and having that hand to hold, right? Like that's what we want for everyone. So you can help us do that. If you don't mind leaving a review and rating for us on Apple Podcasts, that would be so appreciated. And in return, we're going to come back for season 2 and bring you some more amazing content and great conversations and lots more woo.
Lots more woo. So thanks, everybody. Peace out.